Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.
Good morning and welcome to the Cheshire and Warrington Pledge Partnership on the Learn Live channel. The idea behind the Cheshire and Warrington Pledge is to put employers at the heart of inspiring, informing and communicating with the next generation of employees in the Cheshire and Warrington areas. There are opportunities for a variety of roles such as warehouse operatives, accountants and computer network architects, and that's just to name a few. These will be featured on the Learn Live channel with the sole purpose to help make you stand out to future employers on the field that you want to be in. So far we've heard from companies such as Priestley College and Voltex, but today we're welcoming back Steph from Minerva Arts. Steph is back to go through what and who is involved in the creation of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now if you have any questions, please make sure you ask them in the live chat facility next to the video player. And a member of the team will get back to you and answer your questions as soon as possible. Now, over to Steph.
So hi everybody, my name's Steph Meskel-Brocken and I am the Artistic Director of Minerva Arts. I hope that you enjoyed the last one of these that I did, and I'm back for part 2. So we're going to dive straight in and revisit that challenge that I set right at the very end of the last session. So last time I spoke to you, I asked you to think about a challenge. And that challenge was to imagine that you are working in a theatre. My job is as your artistic director, and we've just had a big meeting where I've announced the new season that we're producing. And one of the shows that we're producing is going to be a brand new version of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So you and your colleagues have now got to put your heads together, put together a work plan to think about how you are going to get the best results from this show. So if you think back to the last presentation that I did for you, we thought a little bit about what some of the different roles might be within the creative industries. We talked about the creative industries as a whole and the fact that there are a variety of different institutions and organisations that make up this very, very busy industry. So this example of a theatre is just one of many, many, many examples that we could have used. Now, as we were thinking about those possible job roles, we talked about three different categories. You've got your creatives, those people that are right in front of the public, the people that are making all of the art that goes into the stuff that reaches the public. You've got those people that are behind the scenes who are directly connected to making sure that all of that creative work gets out there. Maybe they support some of the technical aspects of making that happen. But then we've also got the further behind the scenes people. And these are the guys that really do all of that background groundwork that make sure that artistic and cultural institutions and organisations are able to actually survive and live. So in that, you've got people like the accountants and the finance people that operate behind the scenes in the theatre. You might have the marketing department whose job it is to make sure that people actually get themselves in to the theatre to see those shows in the first place. So one of the first things that I asked you to do was to make a list of some of the different jobs that might sit in each of those areas. And then I gave you a bit of an option. You could either just choose one from any of those categories, or you might want to choose one from each of the three categories and put together a bit of a list of some of the jobs that they might have to do in order to prepare for this new show. So if we were going to start off by looking at our creatives, who are the creatives within that theatre building? Here are just some examples. Set designers, the director of the show, the choreographer who controls all of the movement and dance that might happen on stage, a composer or a musical director, a lighting designer and a sound designer. And you'll notice that I have purposefully left off the most obvious people within this bracket. I left out the actors and the other people that are on stage, maybe the singers or the musicians or what have you. I left them off because, well, we all know that they're important. We all know that they're there. But what this is all about is thinking about some of those jobs that we don't always think about. So let's take an example of one of these. The set designer. What might the set designer have to do to prepare for this show? Well, they're going to need to meet with the director to have a conversation about what the concept for the design is going to be. They're going to have to produce what we call a model box, which is basically their set design in miniature. They're super cool model boxes. They're going to have to work with the stage management team to work out what the logistics are of that design. Are there pieces of set that need to be moved on and off stage at any point? When does that need to happen? Who needs to do it? They're going to have to delegate jobs to prop and set makers. They've got a lot of people to collaborate with, such as the lighting designer and the costume designer that all goes into that broad design concept. They'll have to get feedback from the director and from the team around the director, and they're going to have to make sure that they are staying within their budget. There's plenty more jobs that they would have to do, but that's just a little bit of a flavour. So our first level of behind the scenes people, that might include people like a stage manager, a deputy stage manager, which is actually a different job to a stage manager. A deputy stage manager's role is to do what we call cueing the show. They have a script that has all the lighting and sound and tech cues in there, and their job is to sit in a little booth backstage and give all those cues out. You've then also got your lighting and sound operators, your tech manager, your fly operator. The fly is the big structure that sits above the stage where bits of scenery might be moved in and out. Your wardrobe manager and your front of house team. So an example, a stage manager. So the stage manager's jobs might include things like meeting up with the designers to get a sense of the stage layout and what the design is going to be and what the implications in that for stage management would be. They're going to have to attend rehearsals and map out what props are needed, when they're needed, where they're needed, who they're needed by. And they're going to have to work with a bigger team to delegate the sourcing of those props as well. They're going to mark up the stage and rehearsal space to show the actors where big pieces of set and scenery might be in the final production. They're going to create risk assessments and manage the health and safety. And they're going to run the technical rehearsal process, including making the rehearsal schedule and running that technical week. And finally, to go a bit further behind the scenes, you've got things like your education team, your finance department, your marketing department, and your operations team. And they're the people that make sure that the building itself keeps on running. They're the guys who are going to be managing the cleaners and the caretakers. And if the building maybe has a bar or restaurant, then they're going to manage that too. So our example in here is the education team. What are an education team going to have to do to make sure that this show can happen? Well, they're going to have to attend meetings with the director and the creative team to talk about the style of theatre that's being used and the approach that's being used. They're going to have to read the text and research and use their knowledge on the national curriculum to see who might be studying it and what schools might want to be coming in. They might develop some workshops that help young people to understand the play. They'll have to work with the marketing team to promote their workshops and other opportunities to schools and other groups. And they'll probably be arranging some school trips to come and see the show itself, so working closely with the teachers. So there we go. There's some examples of those job roles that you might have come up with. None of those lists are exhaustive or complete, but they just give you a bit of a flavour of the different things that people would be doing in this sector. So I'm just going to talk briefly about where the money comes from in the arts sector. The arts is an interesting sector because it's funded through a lot of different channels. It doesn't just operate in the same way that a normal business might do, where you have a service and you sell it, somebody gives you the money and that's where your funds come from. We work in a few different ways. So many arts organisations receive funding from Arts Council England, and this is the body that looks after the arts sector in England. There's separate ones for Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. That body receives money, some directly from the government and some from the National Lottery. Museums, archives and heritage sites usually receive funding from a separate fund, which is called the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and they do a very similar job to the Arts Council. So arts organisations do also operate as businesses. So they charge money through ticket prices and perhaps charging an entrance fee for their building. Some might also raise money through charging for other services, such as hiring out their building, charging schools for workshops, or having an on-site cafe, bar or restaurant. But they also have to raise money from other sources as well, including crowdfunding, fundraising events or campaigns, and applying to other places for funds. These are often called trusts and foundations, and they offer money to organisations who can prove that they provide certain beneficial services to a community. So arts organisations that operate as charities, we talked about charities in the last session, they operate within the same kind of structure as other charities that provide other services as well. So if you're looking at thinking about maybe getting a job in the arts sector, how do these jobs work? What kind of styles of work might you be looking to get? Well, as with most sectors, of course, you can get a full-time job. Some organisations employ full-time staff to work in their organisation, and that operates in the same way as it does elsewhere, around 40 hours a week, and you're working just for that one person. You get holiday pay, sick pay, maternity pay, you'll have a pension plan. The big advantage is that it's regular work and regular pay, so you know where you're going and who you're working for, and you get pretty much the same amount of money every month. Your tax and national insurance is also paid through your pay packet. But because of the way that we're funded in the arts sector, sometimes we have to offer different styles of work. So there's a lot of part-time working in the arts. When you're part-time, you're still employed by that organisation, you're just on less contracted hours. You get similar benefits to full-time working, but with a bit more flexibility, and your tax and national insurance are still paid through your wage. The benefit of having a part-time role is that you might have another part-time role with somebody else as well. But that's slightly different to being self-employed. So if you're self-employed, then you've made that decision that you are effectively going to work for yourself, and you are going to pick and choose what work you take on. The big benefit of that is that you get that flexibility and that choice between the different contracts that you might want to take. But it's a little bit less reliable in terms of the work that you're going to get, because your employment tends to be based on short-term contracts rather than that long-term stability. You also are responsible for paying your own tax and national insurance when you're a self-employed person. From personal experience, I've been self-employed for over 10 years now, and that's the way that I choose to operate myself in the arts and cultural industry. It means that I can work for a variety of different companies. I get different experience that I can then apply to all of the different job roles that I'm doing, but it gives me a degree of flexibility and a lot of variety. So I know that no 2 days are ever going to be the same. Well, in the normal world, at least anyway. In lockdown life, pretty much every day is the same. How would you go about learning a little bit more about this sector? Well, Minerva Arts, the organisation that I run, we offer work experience and volunteering placements throughout the year. We're currently looking at offering some virtual placements over the summer and perhaps into the next academic year as well. There are some really useful websites around on the internet that can tell you a little bit more about the arts and cultural sector. One is called Creative and Cultural Skills, and they run events that help to get people involved in the sector. And if you're particularly interested in theatre, then there's a website called Get Into Theatre. If you just Google that, then it'll come up. And that gives you loads of information about the various different routes into those creative particular job roles within the theatre industry. If you want to get in touch with us or with me and ask me any questions, then you're very, very welcome to. Our website is minervaarts.com, and there's a contact form on there, and I'm available on steph@minervaarts.com. I hope that you've really enjoyed this session. I hope that you've learned something about the creative industries and the cultural sector, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your summer as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Steph, for joining us today on the Learn Live channel. And it's incredible to see the amount of people that make a show successful. How many of those did you guys get? Please let us know in the chat facility. Please remember, it's not too late to leave a question on the live chat next to the video player. A member of the Minerva Arts team will answer your questions as soon as possible. The chat is always live and safe to use, informative for anyone that leaves a question, and moderated at all times. So we'll see you again on the 18th of June to hear more from companies within the Cheshire and Warrington area. See you then, and stay safe.
So the Pledge is a sort of organisation that tries to connect young people with businesses. So we work with schools and colleges and different organisations, so different charities and everything as well, to get young people engaged with us and into the workplace.
We got involved with the Pledge probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We went along to one of the first meetings and it was actually really exciting. There were a lot of people there from local schools and local businesses. So from our perspective as an employer, it was great to sort of connect with local Macclesfield businesses, really.
The Pledge has been able to give me more confidence in myself. I think I've really been able to get on well with my employer because I've seen other employers being engaged through the Pledge.
I think it was in year 11, Trevor came in, did an assembly about the Pledge there. And that's when I first kind of properly, I'd heard bits about it, but that's when I first properly got an idea of what it was, and it was like that connection between schools and the workplace and demonstrating you can do more than uni and all that kind of thing.
I think it's important just to let us know the opportunities that are out there, because it's really hard to kind of find everything, because UCAS has a website for universities and employers don't really have one website, so Pledge can kind of be that bridging the gap.
They've put us in contact with countless local schools and charities and organisations. They approach us constantly to get involved in careers workshops and events that they've set up. They allow for meaningful contact.
Employing young people really helps us in terms of the energy that they bring, fresh ideas and being very committed to the organisation, and also they've got that enthusiasm for training and development which will really help us further down the line.
But it's what you need to do. If you need young people and new talent, you've got to go out and get it, because the students and the children are struggling to come to you. So you've got to show them that you're approachable and that you can do something that sort of means something to them.